What's the story, morning glory? What's the word, hummingbird? Thank you so much for joining me again on my channel and for another review of 90 Day Fiancé, Love in Paradise, Never Have I Ever. So we're starting off with Ariana and Sherlon. We're still on the bus on the way to the immigration specialist. They're still continuing on with their little argument about Sherlon telling her that he wanted to help out his friend whose lights have been cut off because of the pandemic. Everybody has been losing their jobs in Jamaica because Jamaica, relies a lot on tourism. And because that was canceled due to COVID, a lot of his friends and coworkers and whatnot have been struggling financially. So he's telling her specifically about a friend of his whose lights is about to get cut off, and now he's really worried about his friend. And I don't know if he was trying to hit up Ariana for some money so that he can give to his friend, or why this story was even coming up, because Ariana is trying to have a baby and trying to get you to come back to the United States with her. She don't give a damn about no grown man's lights being cut off. So I don't know why he brought this up, but he did. And so Ariana basically put him in his place and said, okay, I don't know why you're telling me about this, because I need money for this baby, for your baby, and you've given me nothing, not one red penny, and here you are talking about someone else's financial issues. So Sherlon gets really upset. He starts cussing and cursing, and they're bleeping out every other word that's coming out of his mouth because she checked him basically, and he's embarrassed. And when they get to their destination, as they're coming off the bus, he comes off first. He doesn't even turn around and give her a hand, to make sure that she at least didn't trip and fall. Nothing. He just gets off the bus and continues walking. And Ariana, made a mention of that. She was like, oh, thanks for helping. So they go inside and talk to this lady, and they're at a travel agency, but I guess, she also knows a lot about the whole immigration process. So they're in the office, and Ariana asks the lady, so we want to do the K1 visa. What will we have to do? The lady tells them that, well, you'll have to start filing the petition, and that's going to cost $1,224 for this petition. So then Sherlon says, well, if we do the petition for the K1 visa, that means we're going to have to be married in a certain amount of days. And the specialist was like, yeah, of course. And so the specialist like, you don't want to get married? And then Sherlon, he has these moments where, and I know it was just a part of his personality. It's nothing but he has these moments where he's just like, he gets really animated, or he gets really, I don't know what it is. When the specialist says, yeah, you don't want to get married, he says, not now. And his eyes get really big. And it's like, what the hell just happened? Like, what's happening here? His eyes got really big, and he's pointing his finger, and he's like, not now. And I was just like, oh my God. Anyways, so then they start talking about what he meant was he doesn't want to get married now. And I'm like, okay, why can't you just talk like a normal person and be like, you know what? I don't think we're ready for that right now. So we're looking into other avenues or other options of me getting to the United States so I can be there with Ariana and the baby. But he just went completely left. So the other option is a tourist visa. So if they do the tourist visa, he'll be able to go to the United States, stay for 6 months, but then he'll have to come back to Jamaica for 2 months. And so the specialist was like, you can still return back to your home country if that's going to be an issue. And he was like, I'm not worried about going to the United States. I just don't want to get married. And then the specialist, in her own little confessional, she says that she knows when she sees love, and she doesn't see any love between these two people, none whatsoever. And that's really crazy when a stranger can look and automatically, figure it all out and be like, yeah, ain't nothing going on here. So they talk about the tourist visa, and the embassies are open. Even though Sherlon had told Ariana that the embassies were closed, the embassies are open. And the specialist tells them that there's a 50-50 chance if they get started immediately, there's a 50-50 chance that they can make it, that he would be able to be in the United States in time for the birth of the baby. Now, I wish I could just tell Ariana, girl, forget about Sherlon. I know that she's got this paralyzing fear of being a single mom. Well, if you don't want to be a single mom, don't get pregnant when you're not married. You should have figured that out when you were doing whatever you were doing. And I understand that birth control fails and condoms break and so on and so forth. As often as condoms are breaking, when you hear this, when people say, oh yeah, we were using protection, but the condom broke. when you, as often as we've all heard that, you would think that there'd be like major condom recalls because these condoms are breaking left and right. But I don't know what was going on between Ariana and Charlon. I think they mentioned it in some previous episode that I don't know what if they were using birth control or not. But hey, you're in, you pay, you play, you pay. So here we are in this situation. So Ariana, you have this like deathly fear of being a single parent, but you're out there doing everything that would make you a single parent. You didn't really know Sherlon. Y'all were not in a relationship. And yes, this was just a vacation fling. But if you, this kind of fear that you have of being a single parent, you would think that you would have, your legs would have been super glued together because you're just so like, the idea of raising a child by yourself or without a husband is just like it's paralyzing you, but you're out there being all reckless in Jamaica and you got pregnant. So evidently you don't have an issue being a single parent. Don't worry about Sherlon. Worry about your baby. Worry about your mental and emotional health. Try to be more positive, more happy, less stressed, because all of that is going to affect the baby. Don't worry about the Sherlon guy, okay? Just go back to the United States. You have your family with you, your mother, your sisters, and whoever else. The baby's going to be fine. You need the baby to be fine. If Sherlon really wants to be a part of this baby's life, he will make it happen. You don't have to be running back and forth between the United States and Jamaica, trying to do all this and all that. If he wants to be a part of the child's life, and if he wants to be the man of your life, Sherlon will make it happen because you're leaving the door wide open for both of those things to happen. It seems like you have no issue getting married to him. You have no problem with that, even though you don't know him. So if he wants to marry you or be with you or date you or be around his child, he will make it happen. And if he doesn't make it happen, that's even better for you because you don't need that added stress. Leave that man alone, girl. Let him do what he's got to do. Okay, moving on to Kaye and Mark. So Kaye and Mark and Kaye's friend Vicky are all having dinner. And when the dinner begins, they start talking about languages because Kaye and her friend Vicky, of course, are talking to each other in Spanish. Vicky is attempting to communicate with Mark, but Mark knows very little Spanish and Vicky knows very little English. So Kaye kind of has to be the interpreter. So while they're trying to communicate, the topic of learning languages pops up. And so Mark says he's not making an effort because they're asking him, Kaye is making the effort to learn English and speak English all the time. So why can't you make the effort to learn Spanish, especially when you are in a Spanish speaking country? For those of us who would love to learn Spanish and who've taken Spanish in school, if I went to a Spanish-speaking country, I would take full advantage of that because when you are completely immersed in that language, then hopefully it would speed up the learning process just a little bit for you to catch on to more things. But he's just like, no, I'm not going to try to learn Spanish because I'm not doing that until I know Kaye is going to come to California with me. Okay, so then why would you need to learn Spanish? Because if she moves to California with you, the onus would be on her to try to learn English or to improve her English because she knows English, but she just needs to improve it. So you're saying, well, I'm not going to learn Spanish until I know she's moving to California with me. Why? You and her would be talking. It would be easier for y'all to communicate in English, and her English would be improving if she did move to the United States. So what are you talking about, Mark? So, and then Kaye says, well, I'm not going to move to California with you until you learned how to speak Spanish. Okay, so they're going back and forth with that. So Kaye tells Vicky that Mark gave her an ultimatum and she doesn't like ultimatums. She's a very free spirit. There is no way that Kaye can ever be. Well, she was someone's wife, but then she cheated. So there's no way that Kaye could ever be the wife that Mark wants. She may be the kind of wife that a polygamist wants or someone who's into polyamory wants. But there's no way that Kaye could be the wife that Mark wants. Mark seems like he wants, he wants to be in a monogamous relationship with her. He's very much like, I love her, I have to have her, she must come back to the United States with me kind of guy. So, like, he's trying to trap her. He's trying to, not like necessarily trap her, but he wants to give her a life that I think is just going to be too confining for Kaye. Kaye is a free spirit. She comes and goes with the wind. She just wants to do whatever, however, whenever she wants to do it. So I just don't see that happening. I don't see how this relationship could work. She would have to really, really, really change who she is for this relationship to work the way Mark wants it to work. Because he's not going to be okay with her being with other people. You know, they're not going to have an open relationship. So how is this going to work? Because Kaye is just too much of a free spirit. Also, to me, Kaye has a very, she has a very dominant personality. And, you know, I don't know. She's very dominant. She's very, she knows what she wants. I just don't see this working. Anyways, so then, okay, so yeah, so she tells her friend that he's giving me an ultimatum. And of course her friend is like, you know, that's ridiculous. There's no one can give Kaye an ultimatum about anything. So then the next day, they're having a toilet issue. The toilet, they think there's water in the bathroom, and they're trying to figure out where the water is coming from. And I didn't know this, but I learned a lot about island plumbing. Kaye was like telling Mark, well, I told you not to put toilet paper in the toilet. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, does she mean that he was using too much toilet paper and it clogged the toilet? And he says, I don't put toilet paper in the toilet. I put it in the trash. Then I'm like, what? So on this island of Boca, you cannot flush toilet paper in the toilet. You have to throw it away in the trash because the septic system, I guess, is not the best. And so toilet paper will clog the septic system. So they thought that maybe Kaye was accusing Mark of flushing toilet paper in the toilet. And he's like, no, I didn't do that. I'm throwing away in the trash. So then they realize that the water is not coming from the toilet. It's actually seeping from the tile. So this is like they have a major issue there. But yeah, you can't flush toilet paper in the toilet. And I'm just like, wow, that's so disgusting. So Mark in his confessional said, when you throw away your used toilet tissue in the trash, you get to see what the other person, it's just so disgusting. I was like, oh my God. Oh, anyways, so then they have breakfast together. Yeah, we're going from used toilet paper and clogged toilets. Now we're into breakfast. So they're having breakfast, and Mark says that he felt really uncomfortable because I think Kaye asked, so what did you think about dinner with my friend Vicky? And he said he felt really uncomfortable because they were speaking Spanish. And he says it reminds him of when they were in Argentina, where she was always speaking Spanish with her friends, of course, because they're in Argentina. That's what they speak. Like, what do you expect? And he goes, he always feels, I guess, like he's left out, or maybe he thinks that they're talking about him. Whatever the situation is, it makes him really insecure when he's around Kaye and her friends and they're talking Spanish and he doesn't understand what they're saying. And I'm like, well, Mark, there's a very easy solution. You can learn how to speak Spanish. You're in these Spanish speaking countries and you're not picking up anything at all to help you with conversational Spanish. And there's so many programs and apps and whatever else that you can purchase and download for free to improve your Spanish. You're in love with a Spanish speaking woman who lives in a Spanish speaking country that you visit often, and for some reason you're not willing to learn Spanish. Okay, fine. So they're talking about that, and then she tells them, well, I have to think and speak in English, and I'm making my effort, which is huge for her to speak English as well as she does. It's huge because she lives in a Spanish-speaking country and Spanish is much more comfortable for her. So the amount of English that she has learned and that she's speaking is phenomenal, considering where she's at and, whatever. Because it shows that she's putting in the effort to be able to communicate with her boyfriend, but he won't do the same for her. So she's like, I'm learning how to speak English. I'm speaking English for you. You're not speaking Spanish for me. You're telling me I have to go to California for this relationship to work. But what are you doing for me? And so in her confessional, she talks about how living on the island is good for her. It's very calming. It's very relaxing. It's exactly what she needs. And she loves her life on Boca. But she thinks about how when she was in the throes of her addiction, how Mark left everything behind in California and he rushed to Argentina to be by her side. And so she feels this obligation that she should probably do the same for him and move to California. So they talk about that, and then Mark says, you know what? No, I don't want you to feel that guilt. Don't think about Argentina. Forget about that. He tells her, if you're going to come to California with me, I want you to come to California out of love and out of willingness, not out of some obligation. So that's Kaye and Mark. Moving on to Daniel and Amber. So she's 5 days now in Costa Rica. So she was really hurt by the previous night because this female was talking to Daniel when they went out to the bar, and he was at the bar to get drinks for the table, and a female, just a random female, started talking to him. She didn't like it. She left. So the next day she goes to see this couple that's friends of her and Daniel. And the man is from Israel. The woman is from Canada. So they have an international relationship. So I guess Daniel and Amber bonded with them over the fact that they're both in these international relationships. So she goes to visit them, and they're like an older couple, a little bit older than her, probably like in their 40s or 50s. I don't know. So she's over there at their house, and she's telling them about the girl talking to him at the bar and how upset that made her. And then no, I take that back. She starts the conversation off by saying that Daniel had quit his job. So she says, I'm here to try to get all this paperwork together, and then I come in to find out that Daniel quit his job so that he could have time to do the paperwork for the K1 visa, but he hasn't really done anything. And so, the friends are saying, yeah, because life here in Costa Rica, it's very, very laid back. So, in America, it's kind of like hustle and bustle. If you want something done, you go to wherever you got to go, get it done, move on to the next. But in Costa Rica, things are a lot more chill, a lot more laid back. So they were saying that even like going to the bank can take it's like an all day process. It's not just, well, let me go to the bank, get my money and leave. It's like, you have to like take the whole day off just to go do the simplest things because time moves a lot slower over there. So they were telling her that, yeah, we're not really surprised that he hasn't really got anything done. It's like a 2-hour bus ride for him to get to the embassy to do the paperwork. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. So, they're kind of like making her understand that, things are a little bit different here. So don't get too crazy about that. So then she tells them about the girl at the bar, and she asks them, have you ever seen females come into his house? And they tell her no. In fact, every time he talks about you, he's always talking about you. And when he does talk about you, his eyes just light up, and he just loves talking about you, and he loves you so much, and it's so obvious how much he loves you. So yeah, he's not doing anything that's not appropriate. And then she talks about how it's a lot. It's a lot. And their friends are like, they say, how she's gonna have a huge responsibility when Daniel goes to the United States. They tell her, you're going to have to be his wife, his lover, his friend, his mother, his chaperone, his counselor, his psychiatrist. You're going to have to do so much for him because he's not going to know how to do anything on his own. So you're taking on a lot. And she needs to realize that, and she needs to do it. She needs to do all that with a smile on her face because she knows what she's getting herself into. She knows that he's not like a go-getter kind of guy. Like, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, let me take care. Give me a list and let me just knock off everything off my list. He's not that way. So Amber, you're going to have a lot of work to do, and you need to do it without complaining, without getting mad at him, without bitching at him, because he's learning, you're learning, y'all are in this together. You're going to have to learn how to relax and take it step by step, one day at a time, to help him to get where he needs to be. And if you do it with love and with care, he'll probably get there a lot quicker than if you're constantly yelling and shouting at him and acting like you're frustrated with him. So they convinced her that she kind of overreacted at the bar, and that she just needs to basically, chill out. So moving on, Daniel is having a conversation with his brother, and he's telling his brother about how it's very stressful for him to be with Amber because she's got this crazy jealousy that just erupts out of nowhere. And it's embarrassing when he's out in public with his friends and she starts acting all crazy and jealous. And he tells a story about how when he was 16 years old, how life was hard for him and his family. And he was walking down the street one day and the cops stopped him. And because there's a lot of corruption there, I think this was in Argentina, not in Costa Rica. It was in Argentina, I think. So there was a lot of corruption in Argentina. So the cops stopped him when he was 16 years old and they demanded money from him. And he just ignored them and kept on going. And they shot him. They shot at him, and he got shot in the leg, and I think he said he got shot in the chest, and he couldn't walk for 6 months. And so because he had to go through that kind of stress, he's like, you know what? From then on, I'm just trying to be as relaxed and stress-free as possible. So if Amber wants to stress me out with her jealousy and her craziness and her, hyperactive self, he's just not down. He's like, I'm not going to go to America with her. I'm going to keep my butt right here in Costa Rica, where I can, sip mojitos under the palm trees instead of going to America and living this crazy, stressful life with her in America. And the brother says that, he sees a lot of problems in their relationship, and he just wants them to work all those things out before they leave for the United States. And so, yeah. So Amber, please relax. Try to understand, try to see things from a different perspective other than the way you see them. Things are different for him, and you have to be super duper extremely patient with Daniel, okay? Very, very patient with him. Moving on to Martine and Steven. So they're planning a pool party. Now, earlier that day when Steven was in the shower, he got a text on his phone. So she looks at the text, and it was just 2 words, "You up?" And it just sent her down a tunnel of despair. She was just like freaking out when she saw that text. So because they have a pool party planned that day and friends coming over and whatnot, she decided that she wasn't going to mention it until after. So the party's starting, the friends are coming over, and she's trying to enjoy herself and not really think about the text too much, but it's too much. So for whatever reason, she decides to have them all play the game of Have You Ever? And so they're playing the game Have You Ever, so on and so forth. And then one of the friends, he asks, well, have you ever been unfaithful, or have you ever cheated on your partner? So Steven takes a drink. So Martine gets, in her feelings, and then she gets upset. She walks away. So the friends are like, asking him, what's wrong with her, what's going on. And Steven is upset that the friend would even ask that question, because the friend understands the history of the relationship, and the friend knows that Steven had cheated on Martine before. So why would you even ask a question to bring that up? But it was more than that. It was more than that. Martine has a lot on her damn mind. She's got a lot going on. This is just me observing. This is not what she said on the show. This is just me observing. She's thinking about how her parents don't like him. She's thinking about how she doesn't know what's going on with him when she's not with him. She's thinking about how she really wants him to propose before before she goes back home. She's thinking about, do they even really have a future? Will they ever get married? Will he be willing to have children, more children with her? She's thinking about the text. She's thinking about a lot. She has a lot on her damn mind. So she walks off, and then no one even bothers to follow her. Even the girls at the party didn't even approach her to be like, oh my God, girl, what's wrong? No one did anything. They just left her sulking by herself in the corner. So after a while, she comes back, and the party is ruined now. The mood is gone. Oh, and by the way, the friends don't like her. In their confessional, 2 of them are like, yeah, she's not our cup of tea. We don't really care for her. They say that she pushes too many buttons, and Steven is a really chill guy. He's a really nice guy, but Martine brings out the worst in him. Martine is constantly suspicious and accusing him of things. I guess that's why they don't like her. So the party's ruined. So she comes back to the group, and she goes up to Steven, and so she comes back to the group, and she's standing there sulking, and one of the friends asks, well, if he doesn't move to the United States and you don't move to Jamaica, will your relationship work? And Martine says, I don't want to be in a long distance relationship anymore. So she's basically saying, no, it's not going to work. And so Steven is like, what do you mean? And so Martine says, well, we need to figure things out, or we're just going to have to end it. And so, he goes back. He's upset now. So he leaves the party. He goes back to his hotel room, or back to his suite. And so he's sitting there. And then she comes in later, and she's like, he's on his phone, right? So she comes in, and she's asking him, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? He doesn't really answer. And then she asked about the text. She says, your phone went off, or you got a text message when you were in the shower, and I looked at your phone, and somebody was asking if you were up. And he's like, Okay, so, and she's like, why is somebody asking if you're up? It has to be someone that you're messing around with, because who else cares if you're awake? And I'm like, oh my God. So Steven is like, okay, so we're back at this again. And he goes, so you're back at this again. And she's like, no, are you back at this again? And so Steven says, get out of my face, or whatever. And then he stands up to leave because he knows this conversation is going downhill. So he's like, get away from me. And so he stands up to walk away, but then she pushes him. She actually puts her hands on his chest and she like pushes him back. And she goes, answer the question. You need to answer my question. And so he says that, hey, I'm a DJ. Random people are always texting me. I don't know who that was. I'm not doing anything. So they're arguing back and forth. And, they're going back and forth. He's trying to like declare his innocence. He's like, I don't know who that was texting me. It wasn't no chick. I'm not doing anything. I don't want this to work out between me and you. I'm here for you. I'm not seeing nobody else. So then she's like, well, I'm struggling, with gaining trust again. I'm really struggling with that. And in her confessional, she says that when you lose trust, you lose it in buckets. But when you gain trust, you gain it back in drops. And I thought that was a really good analogy. So she's like, I don't know what to do because I can't trust you and I'm trying to trust you again and blah, 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 blah. She's just acting like a baby. She's got that alcohol in her. She's thinking about that dumb text. She's thinking about, I think what's really bothering her is that she's seeing signs that he's not ready to commit. That's what's bothering her. It's not the text. It's not what happened 3 years ago. She's just seeing little signs, little red flags that this man is not ready to commit, to propose, and run off to Florida with you. I think that's what's bothering her. So then she storms off. She goes into her bedroom and she slams the door, and that's where the episode ends. So, yeah. From what I see so far, I really don't see Steven proposing to her before she goes back to Florida. I think this is going to be a very short season of this particular franchise. I don't see any weddings happening at the season finale. Let's just say that. But anyways, yeah, so that's your girl Martine and your boy Steven. Relationship is definitely on the rocks. Martine is not getting what she wants, and she's acting like a baby. She's slamming doors. And so that's it. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will definitely be talking to you again later. Bye-bye.